more signs on the Bitcoin daily chart that Bitcoin might be getting ready to set up a really nice rally. Really good macro timing too. And that might be a more important chart that we're going to look at today. It's the macro, the weekly zoomed out chart, the cycles of crypto. Doesn't even matter if you hold Bitcoin or you only hold altcoins. This chart, incredibly important, but it's what's happening alongside the timing of this chart. That is to say, some on-chain metrics that we're going to look at and other things. Hit the subscribe, hit the like. Let's jump into the video. We're definitely going to dive into the weekly, the daily. There's a bunch of indicators that I want to go over, talk about targets out of this channel that Bitcoin has been in, consolidating really since March. This is a multi-month consolidation on the daily. This is what it looks like. Maybe some bullish divergence happening. I want to go over just a couple pieces of news that I think play into kind of even the shorter term what's going on. So here's a headline. BlackRock Bitcoin ETF inflows surpass Magnificent 7 stocks as trader eyes $88,000. BlackRock iShares Bitcoin ETF has accumulated nearly $19 billion of Bitcoin year to date. These baffling inflows are greater than those of the Magnificent 7 stocks in 2024, according to Blockland, the founder of Blockland Smart Asset Fund. So these Bitcoin spot ETFs, I know it was all the headline news, when it got approved and then it launched, but these are doing something special. And when we are evaluating the growth cycles of not only Bitcoin, but crypto, that data is continuously important, especially as it relates to how are Bitcoin ETFs competing with other things, right? Like the Magnificent 7 that this article is about. So I want to just discuss that. And it also kind of talks about this post that someone made basically out of this channel that we're going to be discussing in this video on the daily chart. But again, $80,000, $90,000 target area. Another headline, Donald Trump will speak at the Bitcoin conference tomorrow. It's all the news right now when it comes to Bitcoin conference, which is this week. And I think that's important to consider as we do have this daily chart. We're going to see Bitcoin price, whatever it does. If we get the breakout, if things are really bullish on the short term, where's resistance potentially? If we get support, where's that going to be? And then this one, Bitcoin massive rally due as buy signal hits for first time in a year. This is the one I really want to talk about because we've been talking about it. Bitcoin miner capitulation over, says Hash Ribbons data. And we've been tracking Willy Woo. He's been tracking this for quite some time, this Bitcoin Hash Ribbons chart. But he says miners capitulation is over. It's one of the most reliable bullish indicators. Hash rate is recovering. The price and hash rate bottom coincided with upgrades to next-gen hardware hitting the network. Hash rate set to scream. If you look at this chart, I just want to point something out. You can see the hash ribbons. They've consolidated for quite some time now as Bitcoin price has been consolidating. You see that Bitcoin price in blue. Those yellow lines, the ribbons kind of just consolidating, converging together. Just because they're starting to kind of bottom out does not mean that Bitcoin's immediately going to just go soaring, right? And that's something I do want to keep in mind as we're looking at this chart, even on the weekly or even on the daily. There could be still just choppy waters ahead as that hash ribbon kind of consolidates and starts moving back to the upside. So that's that piece of data. Now, the other thing is, if we look at this thread that Willy Woo wrote, he says the mic drop on long-term bullishness is the setup in global liquidity. TradFi buys risk on assets like Bitcoin when liquidity, money printing, expands. Early signs this is breaking out. So check out this liquidity trend. You can see like this kind of MACD oscillator. Look at the liquidity trend. And this is all along the Bitcoin chart up here, right? And you can see the rise of global liquidity. This is the setup for an absolute explosion. But what makes the setup, I would say, exciting, at least for me, as I've been tracking these charts for years. I mean, almost 7 years now tracking crypto and Bitcoin. What's most exciting is the timing of this. All of these things, whether that's the miner capitulation, the bottoming out there, whether that's, this chart that we just looked at, the liquidity trend on the macro, it's the timing of it. I say time and time again, these Bitcoin halvings are just such a foundational part of the Bitcoin cycles, the crypto cycles. I mean, the macro revolves around these Bitcoin halvings. So right now, when I'm looking at something like the weekly, I just cannot help but continually see, especially even compared to previous cycles, look where the RSI is on Bitcoin right now after just consolidating through the halving. It's right around 50, or it's right around 60, right? But it's almost exactly where Bitcoin was last cycle before its macro breakout. Look at this, similar area. And then even 2 cycles ago, here's a 2016 halving, just similar area. And then we go back to the previous cycle, and it happened right around halving, but similar area on this RSI. And then we change this to a monthly, and then I'm going to pivot to the daily chart and really talk about shorter term price action. Just look on the monthly, and I know I talked about this a lot recently, but this is just a really great chart. Has not even been overbought once yet after this Bitcoin halving. And that's something that has happened every cycle. So I'm going to continue monitoring that. The consolidation that we have here, just epic consolidation. Let's go to the Bitcoin daily chart and talk about shorter term price action. So the channel that Bitcoin is in right now, I guess this article that I just went over, that one analyst had around 88,000. I think the other day I mentioned 90,000. I think I overmeasured maybe a little bit the other day, but I would say $85,000 to $90,000 is a good target out of this area, this channel, if Bitcoin is able to break and continue to the upside. I just want to say that might not come in the immediate short term, the breakout now. Bitcoin might have to come back down. I've talked about this in the previous video, to test these moving averages, to test this long-term Fibonacci, to test the lower trend line. We might get a lower low. Maybe we see some bullish divergence on the daily chart in an environment like that. Bitcoin's falling lower low. We're hitting $50,000. I know it sounds crazy. We're at 67. It could be the first week of August, we're hitting 50 and maybe putting in some type of bullish divergence with a higher high, and then we're getting our move, right? That's something to consider. But what I do want to point out, though, is when we're looking at the daily chart on Bitcoin right now, check this out on the actual RSI. You can just see this consolidation back here before falling. Right now, we're putting in like a higher high on Bitcoin price. And if you notice, this point right here on the RSI was actually right here on price, and Bitcoin's putting in a lower high on price, but a higher high on the oscillator. This could be a little bit of a hint of some bullish divergence on Bitcoin. And if we get this support above these moving averages, namely the 50-day moving average around just under $64,000 or so, and continuation to the upside, look at this. The 20-day just flipping back around, starting to get momentum to the upside. If all of those moving averages hold, even if Bitcoin goes down a little bit right now, that could be the setup for the breakout, especially with this bullish divergence in play. Want to point something out on the stock RSI, quicker moving momentum oscillator. Yes, it is overbought, but this is a quicker moving momentum oscillator. So it got up there quite quickly, but that could be just the shift of momentum, the big swing of momentum for Bitcoin to see a longer term move. And a really good example of that is back here in February, end of January, February, where Bitcoin, you can see here, was overbought on the stock RSI. And look at it. Did that mean that Bitcoin was about to fall? No. Actually, you can see Bitcoin was testing moving average support, and it was actually a really nice indicator that Bitcoin was about to make a really nice move to the upside, right? That stock RSI being overbought. We're in a kind of potentially similar environment right now. Stock RSI overbought, moving averages right around where Bitcoin is, just below it. If we can get that next move to the upside, that could be the move to hit the targets that we just talked about. All the while, I'll be tracking support, trying to be patient here, but wanted to go over just an update on these shorter term charts. Not much has happened in the last 4 or 5 days or so. So we'll continue tracking it. Bitcoin and crypto, I just think on the macro is bullish, and those are just my thoughts. And that's all this is, everybody. Just tracking my crypto journey, tracking the data with you. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Please turn notifications on. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.